Greetings all, this is Hairy Nick. How is everyone going out there? We have some more details for X-Wing Epic in 2nd edition, thanks to a couple of new articles that we've had over the past week. Now, I apologise I didn't make a video last week on the article, I just simply didn't have time to get around to doing that. So in this video we're going to have a look at all the details spoiled in both of those articles, because earlier today we also had an article on the Tantive IV Expansion pack. Now, one thing before we dive into this, I do need to point out that yes, I know FFG did a 2-hour live stream of some epic gameplay. Now, I haven't had a chance to go through that with a fine-tooth comb, sorry about that. So if there's any minor rules interaction that I haven't quite picked up on that was revealed at some point somewhere in that stream, I apologise. But look, we're mainly here to have a look at these new cards and talk about how they're going to work in the game. The key thing is to know that based on the article we got last week and some of the information we got out of the stream, we have a bit more information based on how these epic ships function. If you take a look at the top left-hand corner of the epic ship pilot card, you can see that it has two separate initiative values, and this tells you when it activates during the activation phase as well as the combat phase. Also, yes, the 2 times above the action bar does indicate that the ship can take 2 actions when it comes to activate, and as previously indicated, the shield and energy has 2 of these little carrots next to them, which means they recharge twice at the end of turn, I believe. Yeah, look, we're going to get more details on the gameplay and the rules very soon, so I'm not going to continue to speculate or try to decipher what FFG were doing in their live stream. Let's just have a look at these cards and talk about their effect on the game. And we'll go through these upgrade type by upgrade type, and hopefully for those of you who have never played Epic, give you some kind of idea about how these ships function. In general, their upgrades tend to be a lot more powerful. First of all, in the cargo upgrade type, we have boosted scanners. While you lock, coordinate or jam, you may spend up to 3 energy to increase the range at which you can choose an object by 1 per charge spent this way, to a maximum of 5. So if you spend 2 charges, you can lock at range 5, which is not irrelevant considering by the time you come to actually engage with that target, you might actually recharge all the energy used. So also you can jam it up to range 4. Now I don't know if you really want to burn that much energy on jamming, but you can, and again, if it's all the way at range 4, you might have enough opportunity to recover a lot of that charge. And if that's some kind of high tier target like an ace, seems like a really powerful effect to have. Now we don't have any other cargo revealed just yet, but just like there was in 1st edition, it looks like it's going to be this sort of high utility slot like we're seeing with this card. Let's move to these crew options, and all the ones we have here actually have this command symbol in the top left-hand corner, which I believe, based on the information we have now, is a universal upgrade type that you have a certain amount capped in your entire squad. We have a generic strategic commander. After a friendly ship at range 0 to 4 reveals its dial, you may spend a charge. If you do, you may set its dial to another maneuver of the same difficulty and speed. And it comes with 3 charges. Now this seems like a pretty tame version of the commanders, but it is fully generic. It is worth pointing out, in the Corvette pack, it looks like there's almost no upgrades for the Republic, and this will be an option for that. Maybe similarly if you want to run the Raider on the First Order, or like the Sea Rock on the Separatists, what's the other one? Or the Transport on the Resistance. This is just the kind of option you're going to have to take because there might just not be a lot of unique cards for them. At least that's the indication I'm getting at this point. And it might actually indicate something that I suspect FFG are doing, which right now there are no ships for factions 4 through 7. And for the time being, they're able to use epic ships that were traditionally used on the first 3 factions. Which might mean that FFG are actually going to bring out epic ships later on and maybe prevent them from taking the original ships that they can currently take as a kind of stopgap measure. It would seem to make sense based on the small amount of support the Republic's getting on the Tantive IV Expansion. That's just my own speculation. But if we have a look at the rest of these are all Rebel specific because these come in the Tantive IV Expansion. We have Karlist Raikan? I have no idea how to pronounce that. After a friendly ship at range 0 to 2 is destroyed, you may choose a friendly ship at range 0 to 2. That would be of the ship that this character is on, not of the ship that was destroyed. Yeah. If you do, it may perform a red evade action, which is kind of handy. This is going to be a handy effect to have alongside a swarm, I imagine, because basically what you can do is in response to, say, the front ship of your entire swarm popping, all the other ships behind it can then take evades, which makes it very difficult to sort of hammer off all of the ships in your swarm one by one. It's probably not going to be as good if you're like flying aces alongside your epic ships. But yeah, that seems really solid. Perhaps not something you're going to want to take alongside ships that tend to stress. Yeah, this seems pretty cool. Next up we have Jan de Donna. Friendly ships at range 0 to 3 can spend your focus and evade tokens. Yes, that seems quite decent. If this can go alongside Carlist, if you're able to do 2 of these command characters on the one platform, that seems really, really solid. But apart from that, just allowing friendly ships to be able to use focus just seems really, really good. If there's any ordnance that requires focus, that seems really solid. This actually does strike me as something that is actually better alongside higher priority targets like aces and that kind of stuff, rather than swarms. So it's good to have those 2 different options there. Ramus Antilles, after you are destroyed, each friendly ship at range 0 to 1 gains 1 focus token. Now that would include you if you weren't destroyed. After you are destroyed, you are not removed until the end of the end phase, so I suppose you would get a focus token. It's really good because epic ships fire after everything else based on their really low attack initiative, at least that's the indication we're getting. So this is solid. It means your epic ship can get hammered, destroyed, so to speak, and then we'll always have the opportunity to shoot, which, as we're going to see when we have a look at some of these hardpoint upgrades, is very, very relevant. And at the end of the day, you have to remember in the game of X-Wing, just outgunning your opponent, getting more shots on their ships than they get on your ships is a pretty fundamental part of the game. So I actually don't think that Ramus Antilles is going to be a cheap card. I think getting 1 more attack with all the little bonus attacks off an epic ship seems pretty decent. And last up we have Torren Far. After you coordinate a friendly ship, it may acquire a lock on a ship you are locking, ignoring range restrictions. And it also allows you to take a red coordinate on the back of a target lock. Strikes me as something that's going to be pretty solid alongside ordnance tubes, just getting extra value out of your own target locks, and maybe alongside like Y-Wings or K-Wings or X-Wings or anything else taking ordnance. Seems like it could dump a lot of damage out quite quickly, which in Epic is quite important. Okay, let's take a look at some hardpoint upgrades. And before we do, let's mention this fact first, because there's actually a couple of rules interactions that these articles talk about. First up, epic ships can take as many bonus attacks as they want. Now, in first edition, they were actually able to fire with all their separate weapons if their energy allowed. Doesn't look like, based on what we can see here, that's the case. It looks like you can just take a lot of bonus attacks. On this one, for example, we have the Point Defense Battery. So this fires 2 red dice out the bow tie range 1 to 2, adds the rotate turret, obviously, otherwise you wouldn't be able to rotate it. But it doesn't actually have an attack header. It actually has 4 separate bonus attack headers, which seems to indicate to me that this can't be the first attack you take. It can be up to 4 of your bonus attacks with those 2 red dice. I mean, 1 energy for 2 red dice attacks seems pretty solid to me. I mean, you can't change the aiming and everything. You basically got to hammer the same thing or something in the same direction 4 different times. That seems pretty cool. Also, it says set up equip this side face up, which is talking about what happens when these hard points can get damaged, which we'll talk about in a second. Next up, we have the turbo laser battery, 3 red dice out a single rotating arc, range 3 to 5. Again, adds the rotate turret action. This side's face up. As a bonus attack, if your target locks, spend 3 energy. If this attack hits, add 3 hit results. Okay, there is our payoff for target locks. Not just ordnance tubes, so it seems pretty decent. Now, what we were talking about before, when weapons are taken offline, and this is something that can happen when you're dealt critical damage. Basically, as you flip a critical damage face up, you can see that there's actually an indication on a precise hit. And if your opponent's ship was in the sectors that it is describing, you actually get a bonus negative effect, which can be taking these turrets offline, like this card right here. And if you take, for example, the turbo laser battery offline, you get no attacks out of it, and after you engage, you may spend 2 energy to flip this face up. And that seems really, really bad to have one of these offline, because you can see just how much value all those bonus attacks gets if it's just the turbo laser battery. It's a really big, decent attack if you're trying to slow roll and hit something you've target locked. You don't want that taken offline. With the point defense battery, you definitely don't want to lose all 4 of those attacks. So it seems like a pretty big cost to have these taken offline. And although we didn't see, based on those articles, I'm guessing all of these offline statuses are going to be something like spend an amount of charges to flip it face up, or do something else, or just an action. We'll see. Also, targeting battery. This is the face up side again. 3 red dice, single turret attack, range 2 to 5, adds the rotate turret action. As a bonus attack, spend 1 charge. After you perform this attack, you may acquire a lock on the defender, which just sounds lovely alongside turbo laser battery. Or ordnance tubes. I think either of those is going to be a strong option alongside this. But what's really, really disgusting about this is because you can take any amount of bonus attacks you want, you could do a primary attack, a targeting battery attack, and then with the fresh target lock you just acquired, shoot them with a turbo laser. That sounds very nasty, and I love it. Okay, let's have a look at some of these teams, and these actually add white linked actions, which seems like a very, very powerful thing indeed. This is the comms team. After you perform a coordinate action, you may spend up to 2 energy to coordinate that many additional ships at range 0 to 1 of the ship you coordinated. Nice, and to top it all off, if you do that, you can also calculate right after. Seems pretty neat. Also, it adds white jam to calculate. Nice. Also, I like the fact that the character here is Chiss, something we don't see a lot of in Star Wars art. A nice reference to the extended universe there. Next up we have Damage Control Team. Before you engage, you may spend 1 or more energy to flip that many of your offline upgrade cards. Actions. Spend 1 or more energy to repair that many of your face-up ship damage cards. Also adds Reinforce to calculate. That's all really, really solid. So before you engage, that timing window again is very powerful because your opponent's ships could take some of your hard points offline and then you can immediately flip them face up. And it also adds that white linked action, and on top of all that, you can get rid of face-up ship damage cards. Now, these team cards really, really do highlight the power of epic ships. And again, I just want to reiterate, this is the kind of power level we're dealing with. It's not just like another large base ship with a lot of health. These things are absolute whales to take down. And this is the kind of card that really exemplifies that. Bombardment Specialist. While you perform an attack, you may spend 1 calculate to increase or decrease the range requirement by 1 to a limit of 0 to 5. Also adds target lock to calculate, because why not? And I think the key value with this is actually being able to shoot some of those hard points at range 1. Any ship that's kind of like squirreling up right next to your large base ship is something that's going to be quite difficult to take care of in most situations, apart from basically your primary attack. And also, yes, you have to take the target lock enabled to get that calculate, but you don't have to target lock that ship that you're shooting. It's just an action you have to take. Sensor Experts. You can maintain up to 3 locks on different objects. After you perform a target lock action, you may spend up to 2 energy to take that many extra locks. They have to be at range 0 to 1 of the first thing that you locked. Makes perfect sense. So having target locks on multiple different things, I mean, it's helpful if you're not quite sure what you're going to shoot, although these huge ships do seem to move last. It is also quite helpful because you do get to take so many attacks. There's a very high chance that you're going to take something off the board and still have extra attacks. So if you target lock something that you're about to destroy as well as the next thing you want to shoot, well, there you go, beautiful. Why not? That's going to be a handy way of working your way through swarms. And lastly, we have some title cards for the Corvette as well. Now these are all actually for the Rebellion, which is just reinforcing what I was saying before. There are currently no Republic titles. I don't know if FFG are going to add any, but my guess is FFG are going to want to just add an epic ship onto the Republic at some stage and just basically push people in that direction. So, first of all, we have the Donna's Pride. This adds a team and a cargo slot. Can't really comment on that right now because we don't know what other upgrade slots it already has. Gets rid of 2 shields, does add evade, as well as calculate on the back of evades and focuses. So this actually works quite well with Dodonna because you can obviously share out those tokens. Also, you're coordinating, so this really does push the Corvette into a nice support role. Jaina's Light. When a friendly ship at range 0 to 2 defends, if the attack is obstructed by an obstacle, you may spend 1 energy. If you do, the defender rolls 1 additional defense die, adds a shield, takes an energy. So this is quite a defensive ability. When a friendly ship at range 0 to 2, yep, that includes Jaina's Light as well. If the attack is obstructed by an obstacle. Yeah, okay. Don't know what to make of that. That kind of style of flying, in Epic especially. I mean, how claustrophobic is it realistically going to get, especially so close to your Corvette? Might not be the easiest thing to pull off, but it adds a shield, that's always good. Next up we have Liberator, which adds an energy. You can dock up to 2 small ships. After a ship deploys from you, it may perform a focus or barrel roll action. Doesn't matter what ship it is too, which is quite cool. Got to be small ships, so it's not like you're giving a large base ship barrel roll. I mean, that'd be kind of silly if you did. But lots of really cool options there. I mean, that could be literally anything. Wedge, any A-wings or Y-wings, B-wings, named pilots. There's going to be a nice bit of flexibility there. The fact that you get to reposition or focus 2 very valuable things depending on what you're doing that turn seems good. Seems like you can set up a nice alpha strike if you play it correctly. And Tantive IV, add 2 crew slots. While you defend, if the attacker is in your rear arc, you may roll 1 additional defense die, which seems quite odd considering what happened in A New Hope, but okay, whatever. Interestingly, it adds 2 crew slots. As I said, we don't actually know what upgrade slots the Corvette currently has. It might not actually have any crew slots. And this would be quite flavorful because it would be literally the only way to get cards like 3PO or Princess Leia on the Corvette if indeed that's the kind of design they're going for. And if that's the case, well, that makes perfect sense. That's where they appeared in the movies. So considering epic ships now do blue maneuvers and all that kind of stuff, we can also think about things like Ni and Num. There's a lot of really cool interactions there. But if any of you can think of like dumb interactions with some of the standard crew members, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. I really want to see how we can break this kind of stuff. But apart from that, that's pretty much all the information we got. We had a nice diagram here, as well as an example in the live stream of how these ships actually move. They only do banks, forwards, or full stops. And they don't move very far. It's not like you just stick one of those little bank templates in the front and move the entire length of an epic base ship. You can see here in this diagram, for example, they do move only slightly. And they can also sort of pivot slightly, so they bank without moving forward, if that makes any sense. Which pretty much seems to be in keeping with how they functioned in first edition, although the bases have been massively redesigned. It's not 2 separate plastic pieces, it's now one large thing, and the movement tool actually interlocks on that center section. You can actually see underneath how that locks in. Looks like FFG have really thought all of this out. And I like how they've basically streamlined the rules, so they actually now just function a lot more like standard ships with blue maneuvers and stress and all that kind of stuff. And the way energy works seems to be very similar to just how regular charges on the standard ships works now. So these are all rules that we're already quite comfortable with. And yeah, now that we've actually got a good chunk of the cards to look at, you can seriously see the power level of this kind of stuff. This is not for your standard tournament competitive play. This is for really dumb explosive stuff in a more casual kind of setting. Although having said that, I really do hope FFG do give this some kind of proper tournament support this time round. That was one of the big problems in Epic and First Edition, and that's something I'd love to see. Anyway, let me know what you think about all of this in the comment section down below. As more information comes out, I'll cover it here on the channel. In the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe. Like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Reddit. Please consider supporting my Patreon as well. At this stage, the Patreon is really the best way monetarily to support the channel. The YouTube ad revenue, sadly, is really doing us no favors right now. Even for those of you who just put in $1 a month, I seriously appreciate it. It does mean quite a lot. Thank you so much to everyone that has already supported the Patreon. You guys are awesome, and I'll catch you all in the next video.